All right, good morning. This is Jeff Orrock here at the National Weather Service office in Wakefield. I'm doing a Tuesday briefing since yesterday was a holiday. So we move everything back a day to Tuesday, and we'll cover the weather for this week and look a little bit ahead into this coming weekend. As far as just kind of some of the bullets, the highlights for the week, we do have some showers and thunderstorms potentially today. Again, on Wednesday. Wednesday, there actually is a marginal risk of severe weather. So we'll kind of talk about that. There's also some risk of a few pockets of heavy rainfall. We saw some yesterday. I don't know if we're going to see as much as we saw yesterday, but we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. It does look drier towards the end of the week, and the marine is a little bit complicated on the marine side of things. But the nice thing is the winds are light. The wind directions are a little bit variable. I'm kind of bouncing around, and so we'll kind of talk about why that is. But there is another cold front coming Wednesday night into Thursday, which will bump the winds back up, and we'll all have a north wind with some cooler temperatures coming during the later part of the forecast. So we'll kind of just jump into what's going on right now. Out there, we do have quite a bit of cloud cover. I mean, once you get south of Wakefield and down into northeast North Carolina, there is quite a bit more sunshine, even over maybe some of the south central part of the state. You're seeing a few little breaks of in the clouds with some sun. But once you get really, Hampton Roads and then kind of going up 460 and then a lot of the northern part of the state in Maryland, we're pretty much socked in. And the front that was actually plaguing us all weekend with the showers, it's just still kind of parked right across us. It keeps kind of marching, north and south. Yesterday it was a little bit further north over Richmond, over towards Williamsburg, had a lot of heavy rain there. I'll show that in a minute. Right now, what's happening with the front is I'll move this over here so you can see the weather observations. You see the north wind kind of coming down the bay, really light north wind, even northwest over here by Fort Eustis. And that's where the cooler air is kind of filtering down on the backside of the front. But then when you get over Southern Virginia, you see more of a west wind, even a southwest wind out here just north of Lake Gaston and Carr Lake, and just a lot of southwest wind south of the front. So that front is literally kind of parked somewhere right along the James River, on the lower part of the James, probably right back here to Wakefield, and then a little ways inland. So that's where the front is right now. Yesterday was a little bit further to the north, slipped a little bit further south, and so that's why we have some light north wind in some of the areas with temperatures a little bit cooler. And once you get down northeast North Carolina, I mean, temperatures are a bit warmer in the low 80s, and they may actually start to make a run into the mid 80s before it's all said and done. So the front is just parked right over us. It's going to hang out here for a little while. Kind of look at the rainfall totals. Let me get this out of the way from yesterday. This is where that front parked itself, kind of just, across central Virginia, and then kind of lingered a little bit back here towards Danville. But basically that front sat there in the evening, and those storms really just blew up along that front and kind of parked there. So we had a lot of heavy rainfall, had some flash flooding. Seeing some reports from our Kokoraj friends there of anywhere from 5 to over 6 inches of rain, maybe even 7 inches of rain in some of these little bullseyes here from Richmond, going a little bit east here towards Toano. So really big pocket of heavy rainfall, another little pocket here across York County and Newport News. Had a little bit of decent rain, even just south of that, across parts of Southside Hampton Roads. Nothing too heavy, but a shower sat there for quite some time. So you can definitely see where that front parked out yesterday. Now, if I take a step back and look at the rainfall really over the last 72 hours, it's a little bit different scale, but you see the bigger picture now. It's accounting for more rainfall. Everybody that's in the darker green, the light green had about a half inch or so. The darker green areas, is where you saw maybe about an inch of rain. So you see quite a bit of the area being covered by some of the darker green here. So they had at least an inch of rain over the last 3 days. Once you started to get into the areas of yellow, you got 2 to 3 inches of rain. And then obviously by the time you get into the red, that's where that 5 to 6 inch plus bullseye occurred. And that's where we had some of the heavier rain over the last 3 days. But a lot of the area at least got into some rain. The areas that got kind of shortchanged, really, once you get over parts of South Central Virginia, Emporia, only showing maybe a tenth of an inch of rain, maybe a little bit more. But you can kind of see the area here did not get as much. Same thing over the Piedmont. Once you get north and west of Richmond, there's a little bit less rain up here too, with maybe a quarter of inch in some areas. Maybe somebody got it close to a half inch, but it was really much less, on the north side of the front and kind of to the south of the front. So I definitely saw more rain along the front, closer to the coast, and over northeast North Carolina down there. Our friends had quite a bit of rain, but basically once you get east of Windsor and over towards Ahoskie, east of the coast, had a bit of good rain. So that's good news. We'll see how much it helps the drought. Probably only a minimal amount, but at least we got some good rain over the course of the weekend. Kind of looking at the fronts, I'll kind of step through the Weather Prediction Center's website so we can kind of see a little more detail. There's that front today, just kind of stalled right across the James River with a north wind on the backside and kind of that light kind of a south to southwest wind south of it. And it's just going to kind of park here for a good bit of the day. Could develop a few showers along that front. And in fact, if you look right now, I'll pull this down, you can actually see some showers, down here developing over northeast North Carolina. The front sitting right in here, maybe a little bit of shower there near Cortland trying to pop up. So south of the front, you're starting to see with the heating, a few of these little scattered showers and we'll see if we get a thunderstorm. Looks like maybe a thunderstorm starting to maybe try to develop there southwest of Columbia. But for the most part, the rest of us are pretty dry. Maybe just a few little light showers, moving across the middle peninsula over here towards the eastern shore. Kind of see these moving towards Cortland. Just really, really small showers. Probably going to see more activity developing, along and south of the front as the day goes on. So expect, maybe a little bit more coverage here, over parts of southeast, south central, and maybe a little bit of southwest Virginia, as well as down into northeast North Carolina. Could get some heavy rainers off and on, basically along and south of the front, with maybe just a few little passing showers north of the front. So moving ahead in time, that was the front here for today. We get into this evening. You see that front really doesn't move much. It just kind of stays parked right across our area. By the time you get into tomorrow morning, notice how the front does lift back north as a warm front. So things should be a little bit improved tomorrow. Might see a little bit of mix of sun and clouds. So it's going to be a little bit warmer tomorrow. I'm going to get more heating with that front to the north. That might actually support a few little, strong thunderstorms. We are in a level 1 risk for severe weather tomorrow for just some strong gusty winds. So we'll talk about that. So we'll be in this more unstable air mass with kind of a tropical air mass, and we'll have showers and storms popping up. And some of those could produce some gusty winds and some heavy rainfall. Moving into tomorrow evening, you see that front's kind of stalled up there still, and we may see some convection there south of the front across a lot of the area. By Thursday morning, this thing starts to come back down as a cold front. It may actually already be pushing a little further south than this by Thursday morning, but high pressure is going to be coming down. Whoops, sorry about that. High pressure is going to be coming down across the Great Lakes, and that's going to push this stalled front back south as a cold front. And that's going to happen on Thursday. And then by Friday morning, you see that cold front really is now pushed all the way down south of Myrtle Beach, down there to Charleston, and high pressure is building back in. So front's going to be meander around us here for the next couple of days. I'm going to stall again to our north and then come back through Thursday as a cold front. And then you'll notice on Saturday, there's a second cold front that comes through. So this one probably won't have much precipitation with it. It'll probably be fairly dry, but kind of reinforcing that north wind, those drier conditions, maybe slightly cooler temperatures, even getting into Saturday here. So that first front stalls down across Charleston, and then here comes a second front on Saturday. And then Sunday, the second front blows all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, and high pressure is building in for Sunday as well. So may mean a more of a persistent north to northeast wind on the marine as far as the wind direction. Could be a little bit rougher going into the weekend. We'll see how that goes. But for the most part, the rest of us are going to be dry and probably seasonably cool potentially. Even into Monday, again, high pressure, still kind of building in and settling in from the west. So that's what's going on with the weather pattern. I'm just going to be a little bit messy here from, I'd say, today through about, Wednesday night, early Thursday morning until that cold front pushes south. This is the level 1 risk of severe weather today. For Wednesday. Today and tonight, we just have maybe a few little thunderstorms possible. And I think if we are going to see a thunderstorm, it's really going to be along and south of the front. So it's probably more in the southern part of the area, southern part of Virginia, northeast North Carolina versus, north of it. So your best chance for a thunderstorm is probably south of 64 today. Tomorrow, we do have that marginal level 1 risk, which we'll talk about in a second. And then for Thursday, as that front pushes south, maybe we see a rumble of thunder here over far southern Virginia and North Carolina as that front pushes south. So, for today, what we're looking at here is the timing of this, for Wednesday. The timing of this is a little bit later. It probably won't start developing until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Remember, that front's going to be stalled to the north, and so we'll probably start to see some development maybe across, just north of Richmond there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Could be as late as 4, and that could go into parts of Maryland. And then as those showers and storms develop, they'll start to push south and southeast as that front starts to kind of ooze its way south, through the evening hours. So we're saying from about maybe 3 o'clock here north of Richmond, maybe somewhere around dinner time once you get towards Richmond. And then I think, southeast Virginia, south central Virginia, especially down into North Carolina, I think it's going to be probably, even 5, maybe 6 o'clock or later before you start to see anything down that far south. We'll see, but it's a later in the day kind of a storm event, and it's going to be kind of scattered showers and storms moving down along the front. Storms will be kind of moving. There's a little bit of wind in the atmosphere, so the storms will be moving kind of east southeast at 30 to 35 miles an hour. There could be a little bit of training that could give us a little bit of some localized flooding, but the main threat really is going to be strong gusty winds. And there's moderate confidence that we're going to see, scattered showers and storms around, and probably low to moderate confidence that in the intensity. There's just enough instability that might be able to give us some stronger storms tomorrow. A little bit more instability in the mid levels might allow those updrafts to get a little bit stronger tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes. We also have a heavy rainfall potential. For today, there actually is a slight risk of excessive rainfall or flooding. Some of this is due to the rainfall that fell yesterday. I'm out here from Richmond, south and west, kind of just west of Richmond. So some of this is because the flash flood guidance has actually decreased a little bit. As far as coverage goes, it's still going to be scattered today, but we could have some heavy rainers out here, and even across really anywhere south of 64 that could produce about 1 inch of rain or so. So there is a little bit of a slight risk of heavy rainfall. And even tomorrow, those showers that develop, they're going to have some heavy rainfall with them. So somebody might be able to pick up a quick inch. Somebody maybe even 2 inches of rain. Just going to be really isolated tomorrow ahead of that front. And then for Thursday, with the front to our south, we're really not expecting any more rain at all really on Thursday. So this is kind of looking at the overall next 3 days, kind of seeing the probabilities of chances of rain here. So mostly for today, a little bit of a break later tonight and early tomorrow morning, and then another shot here really later tomorrow afternoon. Notice how a lot of the chances of rain don't get going until about 3 o'clock. So if we break it down, this is just for today. The area in yellow here is kind of the area here kind of along and south of the front, where we might be able to see 1 inch of rain. Somebody might report 1 inch, inch and a half of rainfall today if they get a few showers kind of moving across them, maybe even a little bit more than that. But I think once you get north of 64, I think the chance of those heavy rainfall totals are quite a bit lower. As far as the timing of any potential thunderstorms, pretty much not until about 3 o'clock. You see here in the kind of the amber orangish colors, that's your best chance for thunderstorms across parts of the area. And it's really mainly south of 64 where we expect maybe we could see a thunderstorm or two. Once you get north of Richmond, we're really not expecting much thunderstorm activity at all. So that's for today. Getting into tomorrow, you actually notice a little bit less precipitation tomorrow, and that's just because the front is going to be to our north. The focus early in the day is really going to be up here, probably just north of Richmond and over parts of Maryland. We may have some showers going on, and this is the area where it first develops. But then as the front starts to move south later in the day, it just kind of pushes south across the area in the evening. And it's going to be moving as it comes through. So, folks might be able to pick up a quick, I'd say 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch of rain. Somebody might report 1 inch, but it's less likely tomorrow than as far as the heavy rain potential and flooding as what it is today. Better severe weather risk with the potential wind for tomorrow. And if you look at your, timing of your precipitation, really just about everywhere, we hold it off until after about 3 o'clock. And after about 3 o'clock into about, 6 to 9 o'clock, that's when those rain chances really go up, depending on where you are. Better chances north of Richmond, north and west are in the afternoon, decreasing through the evening. And then your rain chances as you get Richmond south and east are actually a little higher in the evening. So just as that front pushes south, kind of detailing the timing of precipitation for tomorrow. Again, for Thursday, we're really not expecting much rain at all. So the rain that we're expecting, here really is going to be today. And again, I'd say through tomorrow evening. Notice some areas have the chances of rain going until almost midnight, especially in the east, and the southeast there on Thursday. So about until midnight Thursday, maybe even a few lingering showers in the far east, Virginia Beach here, even a 50% chance of rain at between 3 and 6 a.m. On Thursday. So maybe some lingering showers in the far southeast, southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina on Thursday. So just looking at some of the rainfall totals on the left here, kind of taking us all the way through Thursday night. But then here, the bottom line is on the right-hand side there, behind those fronts, we're really not expecting much precipitation at all. Remember, that front's stalling down here across South Carolina. So most of the rain later on this week and the weekend is really going to be shunted down to our south. We're going to be on the dry side of those cold fronts. But it's going to be off and on wet until that front can push through there early Thursday. So just kind of looking at the whole week here, you do notice some cooler temperatures here for the weekend. They're not dramatically cooler. We're going to have some 80s tomorrow with that front lifting to the north. Still kind of warm on Thursday, especially in the south before that front comes through. We're probably still going to be back into the 80s. But tomorrow is going to be the warmest day of the week. But then some slightly cooler temperatures. Remember, we had that second front coming through Saturday. And so that's going to keep our high temperatures down pretty much in the 70s and maybe even in the upper 60s in some locations there for Saturday and Sunday. And looking at some of the overnight lows, I mean, some temperatures getting down in the low 50s. Might not be shocked to see some upper 40s, up towards Louisa as we get into parts of the weekend. We'll see if it can get that cool, but definitely some cooler air, not cold air, but just some cooler air coming behind that front there. You got the Thursday front, and then you got the Saturday front. As far as looking at precipitation, once you get past these two systems, the system today and then again tomorrow, and that front pushes through on Thursday, you really don't see much rain chances at all. Very, very, very low slight chances for the weekend. That's very minimal, probably almost like noise in the model. So right now, we're not expecting much precipitation once you get past Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. Just taking a quick look at the rip currents. We do have a moderate risk of rip currents with some lingering waves there kind of coming in to our northern beaches, really from Assateague up to Ocean City. So we have a moderate risk up there. That's probably going to continue really even into tomorrow with the moderate risk. And we do have a low risk of rip currents once you get basically from Cape Henry south down into North Carolina. Just the way the waves are moving, the way the wind direction's been, a little bit lower risk of rip currents down here over our southern beaches compared to our northern beaches. And then in looking ahead, the 6 to 10 day outlook, with that front coming through on Saturday and that high pressure building down into early next week, it looks like we are going to see on average below normal temperatures, a pretty strong signal getting into next week that temperatures will be at least a little bit below normal. Precipitation probably going to be right around normal, pretty tight gradient here, depending on where these fronts hang up for next week. Has much of the area really below normal precipitation for us. So we'll see. You can tell it's kind of a little bit tricky for precipitation next week with a really tight gradient here across the mid-Atlantic, with us like right around normal to maybe slightly below normal. But then once you get to the Carolinas, maybe a weak signal that it could be slightly above normal precipitation. So we'll see how that goes next week. Bottom line is the heat may stay away for a little while. We may be staying below normal temperatures here for a little while. So we'll kind of shift gears real quick into the marine. The marine actually is fairly quiet. You don't see a whole lot of yellow on the map, and that just represents, winds of gusts of 20 or seas of 4 feet. And so you really don't see a whole lot going on. Still pretty quiet here on Wednesday with that front to the north. You get in here to Thursday, you do see a little bit more yellow on the bay with that north wind kind of pushing south. So we might start to see some gusts close to 20 knots, 15 knots, gust to 20 on the bay as that north wind kind of comes down. And that persists a little bit maybe there into Friday. And then you see the winds pick up a little bit more maybe on Saturday with that second front. You start to see a little bit more yellow on the map and maybe better small craft advisory conditions showing up offshore. So just kind of looking at the weather maps, this is not a lot of wind. Obviously today's kind of variable. Notice there is more of a southwest wind everywhere tomorrow, maybe gusting up to about 15 knots. So again, that front lifts to the north, southwest wind, maybe about 10 to 15 knots or so tomorrow. Nothing too strong. And then we get into Thursday, and you kind of see the timing of that front. That front comes through right around between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. You got that front sneaking through. And so you kind of have this west wind that becomes a north wind at about a good 15 knots, maybe even gusting close to 20 knots as that cool air comes down. And that's really, I'd say, between 9 a.m. till about, almost 3 p.m. We get that surge coming down from the north. And then those winds stay out of the north really all the way into parts of Friday. We do come more to the south and southeast later on Friday, but then we got that other front coming through on Saturday. So kind of that next surge coming. Looking further offshore, very much the same, maybe getting up to about 15 to 20 knots right ahead of that front, and that front comes through on Thursday, and you get that wind shift with a good 15 knots offshore. But this is all very marginal small craft advisory conditions, nothing too strong. Here's that front on Saturday. Kind of see that northeast wind setting up there Saturday at about maybe, let's say 15 knots, maybe gusting close to 20. Does persist into Sunday. So again, now it's really a little bit stronger on Sunday. Persistent 15 to 17 knots, maybe gusting up into the low 20s out there, especially the further offshore you go. So it's going to be maybe a little bit kicked up for the weekend as far as waves and boating is concerned, with that persistent northeast wind, with that front coming through Saturday morning. Wave heights, with the light winds, really not expecting much issues with the waves. Further offshore, running about maybe 4 to 5 feet as you get out towards the canyons. And in fact, the occasional wave heights offshore are probably running around 6 feet today. That's going to persist, into tomorrow, and even into, getting into, was that Thursday with that front, going to be still running about 4 to 6 feet offshore, especially some of the higher waves getting up to 6 feet for folks venturing a little bit further out there. And with that, that will conclude the briefing for today. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.